Dear students, today we are going to discuss organizational behavior. We are going to give introduction to organizational behavior. The only difference between one organization and another is the performance of its people. Remember, people alone of all the resources can grow and develop. Whenever we talk about an organization, there are 5 elements we need to remember: task, structure, strategy, technology, and the most important thing is people. People behind the organization, they are more important than the organization itself. They make a lot of difference to the organization. The behavior of people in organization makes all the difference. Therefore, some of the writers, they have put to their book the title Behavior of People in Organization, and others they called it Management of People in Organization. Whatever be the title, today we are going to discuss with the same theme, organizational behavior. Lawrence Bosby, what he says, I am convinced that nothing we can do more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you can bet on people, not on strategies. That is the reason I was sharing with you that people behind the venture, people behind the organization, they are more important than the organization itself. You can think about any organization which happens to be a successful organization, the people who turned that organization into successful organization. Therefore, today our discussion is going to be on introduction to organization behavior. In this lesson, we are going to discuss need for organization behavior, meaning, nature and scope of organizational behavior. Now, we shall start our discussion with the need for organizational behavior. The need for organizational behavior stems from the fundamental understanding that people are the most valuable asset of an organization. By applying the principles of organizational behavior, we can create more effective, efficient and human workplace where both the organization and its employees can thrive. For a long time, we were telling the organization objectives are the only important thing, but today we have understood it's not only the objectives of the organization, but also the aspirations of individuals, they are more important. Organizational behavior, it moves beyond intuition. It provides a systematic approach to managing people, and it helps to achieve success in a sustainable way. Organizational behavior, it provides a framework for understanding, predicting and influencing human behavior and organization settings, ultimately aiming to improve organizational effectiveness and individual well-being. Now, we need to study this organizational effectiveness in order to enhance organizational, we need to study organizational behavior in order to enhance organizational effectiveness, optimizing human capital, fostering a positive work environment. These are the 3 reasons why we need to study enhancing organizational effectiveness, optimizing human capital and fostering a positive work environment. Now, how do we enhance organizational effectiveness? By improving productivity, by making informed decisions. We can improve organizational effectiveness by communicating to people. Several people, they think communication means only in terms of language. We need to understand communication essence is connecting to people. One writer says, many communicate, very few connect. See, the ultimate objective of communication is connecting to people. So, when you connect to people, you will be in a position to achieve organizational effectiveness. Many people, they are good at individual work, but they are not good at teamwork, and especially the present generation, that is what many feel, need to be trained to work in a team. Organizational effectiveness can be achieved only when we enhance teamwork and collaboration. One of the things which enhances organizational effectiveness is innovation and creativity. These things are achieved in proper organizational behavior setting. At the end of the day, if there is anything that is permanent, it is change. A good organization changes in order to create an effective organization. For that purpose, change is required. So, we can enhance organizational effectiveness by adapting ourselves to these changes. The second reason why we need to have organizational behavior is we need to optimize human capital. This can be done through employee motivation and engagement, improving employees' development by exercising a proper, effective leadership, managing talents, and improving employee satisfaction. Through these things, we can optimize human capital. The third reason for us to talk about organizational behavior is we need to create a positive work environment. A positive work environment can be created only when we are able to resolve conflict in an amicable way, when we allow conflicts to exist for purpose of creating creativity in the organization, and when we are able to control and contain the conflict. The second way through which we can foster a positive work environment is by adopting ethical practices. We need to understand that today's buzzword is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness. By embracing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness, we can foster a positive work environment, and through this positive work environment, we can achieve the objectives of organizational behavior. At the end of the day, what glues the organization is the culture. By creating a strong work culture, a good work culture, we can achieve positive work environment. So, these are the reasons why we need to study organizational behavior. Now, we shall focus on the meaning of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior, it is a systematic study of how individuals, groups, and structures within an organization impact and are impacted by the behavior of people. We need to understand we are unique as individual, we impact groups, groups they impact us, we impact structures of the organization, even structures of the organization they impact us. So, when we try to make a systematic study, that is known as organizational behavior. One of the writers says it is an interdisciplinary field that draws upon insights from psychology, sociology, anthropology, and management to understand, predict, and influence human behavior in organization setting. We draw the essence of various elements that are there in psychology, sociology, anthropology, and with the help of these things we try to understand, predict, and control the behavior of people. So, Fred Luthans, one of the famous writer, he says organizational behavior is directly concerned with the understanding, prediction and control of human behavior in organizations. Stephen Robbins, in his book, he talks about organization behavior. He says it's a field of study that investigates the impact that individuals, groups and structures they have on behavior within organizations. And we apply this entire thing for the purpose of improving organizational effectiveness. So, I think this picture explains so clearly that I think that there are elements in organization and these elements they impact our behavior. Organizational behavior is the study of organizational components, namely task, structure, strategy, technology and people, and how these components they impact the organizational behavior and how these components they enhance or they affect organizational performance. So, these things are studied in the organizational behavior. Ultimately, what all we can say that organizational behavior means the study of behavior of individual, the groups and organization themselves as they act, interact to attain desired outcomes. So, the emphasis of organization behavior, remember, it studies about behavior, it studies about human behavior, it studies about human behavior in organization, it studies about human behavior in organization for the purpose of achieving effectiveness. We try to measure the effectiveness of organization by being productive, by providing job satisfaction, by reducing labor turnover, by improving productivity. That means we will take into consideration both qualitative aspects and also quantitative aspects through which we are going to achieve organizational effectiveness. So, the focus of organization behavior at its core, OB is concerned with understanding why people behave the way they do in work environments. This includes their actions, their attitudes, their perceptions, motivation and how they interact with each other. Now, we study this subject at 3 levels. In other words, OB examines the behavior of people at 3 levels. We will try to examine them at individual level, we will try to examine them at group level, we will try to examine them at organization level also, because all these things they have impact on each other. When we look at individual level, we look at an individual, their differences. We need to understand that every person is unique, no individuals are alike, they have their own personality, they have their own perception, they have their own way of learning things, they have their what we say a fire in their belly, that is what we call they have the motivation. What motivates X need not motivate Y, and ultimately what really satisfies a person is different from person to person. Therefore, we look at them at individual level. Now, an individual may be different, but when he is in a group influences him a lot, and several times even individuals they do have impact on the group also. Therefore, at group level we try to explore group dynamics, teamwork, communication, how to lead people, not only as leader, but remember the most important thing, several times what is ignored is how to lead the leader. Even a leader requires guidance, that is the most important. Several times leaders they need guidance. Leading the leadership is one of the important topics we need to discuss in the area of organization behavior. Apart from this, power, absolute power, and how it influences people. Somebody said power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Therefore, how power influences, then how we have to resolve conflicts in the groups. All these things are discussed at group level. Then when we look at the organization level, there are several elements that have impact on the structure of the organization, like the structure of the organization itself, the culture of the organization, the policies of the organization, the change of behavior in the organization. All these things, they influence. Therefore, we study the subject at 3 levels. Then remember, for a long time, organization behavior was not studied in a systematic way. Today, we have intuition based, evidence based organization behavior. OB is not based on intuition. So, today OB is not based on intuition, it is not just based on common sense, it is based on scientific method, it is based on evidence. I think you can take any field. I think these fields, they are developing based on evidence only. It employs scientific method and research to gather and interpret data about behavior of people in organization. Then the next thing is organization behavior is application of knowledge which we have gained from several disciplines. The ultimate goal of organization behavior is to apply that knowledge in order to improve organizational effectiveness, which we are going to measure in terms of enhanced productivity, reduced absenteeism, reduced labor turnover, improving employee satisfaction and well-being, fostering innovation and promoting a positive work environment. Through these things, we are going to measure the effectiveness of the organization. Further, organization behavior, it is an interaction between people and the organization. OB recognizes behavior of people solely determined by individual factors, but also by the organization context in which people work. So, do not think it is decided by individual factors only. Several contextual factors, they impact the behavior of people in the organization. So, ultimately we can say organization behavior, the study of human behavior in organization, and the purpose is to become efficient and effective. Now, what are the fundamental concepts based on which this organizational behavior is built? Let me share with you. Organization behavior is built on certain fundamental concepts like no two individuals are alike, every person is unique, there is a difference between individuals. There might be certain common things, but we are different in terms of our attitude, perception, learning and some of these things. And the second thing is, the fundamental concept of organizational behavior is we consider the complete person, not a person who is just working at workplace. And the third, the most important thing, we need to understand that behavior is always caused. A person will not behave just like that. Something has happened, therefore he behaves. And the person's behavior also changes because of what has caused, different from place to place. Then the next one, every individual has a dignity. Then we need to understand that organizations are social systems where people they interact and where people they share their feelings and activities are there, interactions are there. All these things they give to sentiments and that gives birth to these organizations. Remember, every person gets something to the organization, brings something to the organization, and in turn he gets something from the organization. And if this mutuality of interest is not there, people will not work. And if there is no parity between these two, I think dissatisfaction arises. Then we need to understand, we need to study the holistic organization behavior, we need to study positive organizational behavior. Then we shall discuss the next aspect, that is relating to the nature of organizational behavior. Let us discuss some of the features and natures of organizational behavior. Remember, organizational behavior happens to be a part of general management. It is not the entire management, it is only a part of general management. The second thing we need to understand, it is a human tool which we are using for human benefits. And the third thing, as we have told, this subject borrows several aspects, several components from various disciplines. In other words, this subject has been influenced by various disciplines like psychology, sociology, anthropology, economics, politics. All these things, they influence the subject organizational behavior. As we have already discussed, we make this subject at 3-level analysis, namely individual level, group level and organizational level. Then it consists of a body of theory, research and application. I think I have already made it very clear. It is not intuition based, it is evidence based, scientifically tested, and some of the things which we have tested will be replicating to understand, predict and control the behavior of people. Then this one is action oriented and goal oriented. We are not studying for the subject just for the sake of studying the subject. We are studying the subject in order to achieve something. That achieving something is, we want to make our organizations effective and efficient. Effectiveness talks about our ability to reach the goal. Efficiency talks about the relationship between input and output. We want to be effective, we want to be efficient, we want to be productive, and that is the reason the subject is action oriented and goal oriented. Then remember, this subject involves lot of science and also art. The reason being, science gives us various principles, but by knowing these principles we can't get what we desire. We need to practice, and therefore it is an art. We have to practice, it is an art. It is like knowing communication is different, and having and practicing communication skills, it is altogether different. Therefore, it is science and art. One more example I will try to give. Reading a book on how to swim is different. Getting into the water and learning how to swim is altogether different. If a person who knows swimming, if he reads a book on the techniques of swimming, he can become a better swimmer. In the same way, what we consider the subject is a science and also an art. Remember, at the end of the day, we need to integrate individuals and organization. As I told you, for a long time we were saying that we need to protect the organization, we need to protect the organization. I think the days have undergone a lot of change. I think this generation, this era is totally different. We do not know when this organization they keep you, when this organization disappear also. Therefore, we need to protect the organization. I do agree. At the same time, we need to cater to the needs of individual, his aspiration, his goals. We have to bring a fusion between individuals and organizations. Now we shall focus on the scope of organizational behavior. Now, the scope of organizational behavior is very broad, and it encompasses various aspects of human actions and attitudes within an organizational context. Essentially, it focuses on understanding, predicting and influencing the behavior at 3 interconnected levels, namely individual level, group level and organizational level. Now, this picture clearly shows that there is an interconnection between individual, group, organizational and external environment. Our organizational behavior, it focuses on these things. We shall try to discuss the focus of organization behavior in terms of these things. At individual level, what are the things that we are going to discuss? We shall discuss about the personality. We shall discuss about how individual differences, I think, impact this organization. We shall also discuss under individual factors the perception, how the perception influences the behavior of people in organization. This the perception is not just reality, how people they understand the reality, that makes all the difference. Several times in organization we frame rules and regulations to govern the people. But sometimes these rules and regulations, they are understood in a different way. Therefore, how perception influences because each one perceives various aspects of organization different way. Then we will discuss at individual level learning. Learning talks about a relatively permanent change in our behavior which comes out of an individual's experience or others' experience. So, how learning influences how people learn. People they learn through different ways, and remember our behavior for several times it is a learned behavior. You can think about this learned behavior regarding the way we behave in the organization. It could be regarding punctuality, it could be regarding work culture, it could be regarding respecting people. All these things they are learned behaviors. Then as I told you, every person's motivation is different. Some are motivated, or I think this motivation differs based on age, based on gender, based on positions. I think several things they influence the motivation level. Many people they think that they can motivate others. I think I have a strong feeling that we can never motivate anyone, but what all we do, we create an enabling environment, and that enabling environment we try to help to motivate themselves. Then we talk about moods and emotions. Then at individual level, we also discuss about job satisfaction. See, what satisfies people, again it differs based on their motivation level. Then the values and ethics, I think values and ethics are a very important thing. I think the values that are inculcated at home, values which are learned in the organization, the ethical practice that are there in the organization, they do influence people. So at individual level we study values and ethics. Then how people they make decisions, I think these things they are also studied. Then stress and well-being. At group level we shall discuss about group dynamics, then group norms, how group norms are formed. Again people they might be having their own group, own norms. At the same time there will be deviants in every organization who will not follow or who do not follow these group norms. Then what is group cohesion? What is group decision making, and what are the things that influence group decision making? Team building, then power and politics. Then when we also discuss conflict at group level, especially what we need to understand in the case of conflict, we tell people, some people they accept the conflict, some people they advocate if there is no conflict you have to generate conflict, and you need to control and contain the conflict in order to creativity in the organization. Then we need to talk about communication, then negotiation. All these things they are discussed at group level. Then when we come to organization level, we should focus on the structure of the organization, culture of the organization, learning, organizational communication, change and development, justice and fairness, and HRM practice. These are the things we need to discuss at organization level. Then when we come to external environment, how they influence, we have to discuss about the economic conditions. We have to talk about macroeconomic conditions and microeconomic condition. I think the economic conditions which are immediate to the organization, how they influence. We need to discuss about the culture outside the organization, how it is going to have impact on this organization. Then technology advancements, I think how they impact the behavior of people in organization. Then globalization, whether we like it or hate it, but the fact, but it is not globalization, but we need to understand it is globalization, how it impacts at local level, how this globalization impacts the organization. Further, the legal rules and regulations of the organization, they do influence the organization. So, when we talk about the scope of organization behavior, I think we study this subject at individual level, group level, organization level, and also external environment influence also we will discuss in organizational behavior. Thank you.